Okay, it's about 3 after, so let's go ahead and jump into it. Thank you again for attending today. You're here for the webinar on the NextGen reporting tips for understanding month-end accounts receivable. I'm going to go over a few things before we get started. Everybody is in listen-only mode. Feel free to submit questions as you have them during the presentation. We will stop and answer those as time permits. If we don't get to them during the presentation, we'll get to them at the end. There's a questions box at the bottom of your menu. Go ahead and submit there. And again, we'll make sure we answer those. Anything we need follow up on, we will have your details to do that. Second of all, you will be sent out a recording of the webinar. Those usually come out about a day or so after we complete that. You'll get an email with the link and have both a copy of the presentation and a recording of the presentation. Again, welcome for MedTech Solutions. Just wanted to let you guys know we are out on all of the social media platforms, so feel free to go out and find us. Just search MedTech Solutions, LinkedIn, Instagram, and we do have a YouTube page, which has a lot of recordings that we have done of webinars and various other products. So feel free to explore that as well. So again, thank you for attending, and I am going to pass it over to our host today for Leanna.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Leanna Logo, and I'm a Tier 2 application consultant here at MTS. I have been with the company for about 13 years and have primarily focused on PM processes such as scheduling and billing. Today, we will be reviewing month-end account receivable reporting tips, as well as understanding what the numbers mean in the various reports and how they all relate to each other. At the conclusion of this webinar, you'll be able to run all necessary reports to close and balance your financial transactions, verify financial activity for accuracy, as well as set up reporting best practices. Before we get into it, I just wanted to give a little disclaimer. Everything reviewed today are general processes, so they may not be suitable for all unique situations your practice may have. So to start us off, I'll be going over basic report criteria to help balance and reflect accurate financial data. The first thing I'll discuss is setting your date range. Like all NextGen reports, you will enter your date filtering options in Filter 1. But the real question is, what date should you use to run your reports? Some reports have the option to filter your data by encounter date, create date, and date of service, but all reports have the option to filter by process date. So as you can see in the examples, one report has only process date to filter by, and the other has multiple date options. When running your monthly closing reports, you always want to filter by process date. This will give you the correct data to balance the reports against each other. Another best practice is to select last month in the filter dropdown. This will provide accurate dates when memorizing this report and running it each month. Sorting options is another important report setting. Whatever data is beneficial to your practice is what you should sort your report by. If you want to see provider productivity, you can sort by rendering provider. For location productivity, you can sort by location name. Some reports can provide you with user productivity or data by payer. It is also important to select the group by option. This will help by giving you overall totals for whatever it is you choose to sort by. The next option you want to update is the total setting list. Here on the right side, I've outlined in red the option to see total lines only. You want to go ahead and check that box. This will hide the individual data lines in a report and show you the overall totals for whatever it is you chose to group your data by in the sorting list. If you find it useful to your practice, you can also select the Count Records option. This will count the number of lines within each section it is grouped by. Here is an example of how the total lines only option works. Without it selected, you will see, which is the image on your left, you'll see each item on the report. This can cause your reports to be lengthy with a lot of data. With it selected, the image on the right, you will see totals for whatever it is your report is grouped by in the sorting list. For this example, I grouped it by CPT codes. This screenshot also shows you an example of the count records option. Those numbers you see in parentheses are the count of each code reported. So overall, there are 36 total CPT entries, and 11 of those are 99215s. Now, we're going to move on to running your reports. When is the best time to run your month-end AR reports? The obvious answer to this question is at the end of each month, but what does that mean specifically for your practice? There are two approaches to this. The first option is the first of every month. This will show you where your practice truly stands in NextGen at the beginning of each month. The second option is when you finish entering in all your financials for that month period. For example, if you see patients on the 30th of the month, but doctors don't finish submitting charges until the 1st or 2nd of the following month, you can still have the financial data report within the month the service took place. Same thing for payments. If you have bank deposits from the 30th and you want them to report with the month they were deposited, you can run your reporting after they have been entered. With the second option, you'll want to make sure your staff has rights to override the process date so your data will display under the correct time frame. For payments, that can be done here in your batch information. For charges, you can do that directly in the charge entry screen for each encounter, or the other option is to set your session settings in practice management menu bar, tasks, session settings, so it will default for you for every encounter. Regardless of what option you choose, I do recommend setting up the background business processor to generate your reports. This will help you save time from waiting for each report to generate, as well as prevent any potential slowness that could be caused by running the reports during production hours. If you choose to close your financials at the end of each month, which I refer to as option 1, you can have your BVP job automated to run on the 1st of each month, as you see in the screenshot on the left. If you choose to close your month at a later date, referred to as option 2, I recommend scheduling a one-time run as seen on the screenshot in the right. This does require manual updating each month, but it gives you the flexibility to run the reports after the financials have been completed. Once all charges and transactions have been entered for your financial period, it is recommended to set your minimum override process date. Locking down your process date will prevent financial data from being entered into past reporting periods, which could potentially cause future reports not to balance. In order to lock down that date, you'll go to the menu bar, File, Processes, Override Process Date. In the minimum override process date field, enter the first day of the next reporting period. So if I want to close out the month of May, I would enter June 1st as my date. Now that we have reviewed the how and when to run our month-end reports, let's go over what reports we should be running. There are 7 reports total that are recommended to run. They are practice summary, change in accounts receivable by encounter, charges, payments, adjustments, refunds, and aging analysis by encounter. The first report is a practice summary. It can be ran from reports, system, practice summary. This report shows overall totals for the specified time period in filter 1, which, as I mentioned, should be entered as last month. So the charge amount total is all charges entered in that time frame. Same thing for payments, adjustments, and refunds. The values displayed are all independent from each other. meaning it doesn't take into consideration any encounter dates or dates of service. The total column is the sum of all columns. The next report is change in accounts receivable by encounter. It can be accessed by going to Reports, Monthly Change in Accounts Receivable by Encounter. There is an option to run the report by line item, and you can do so if you like to get more granular with your results. I recommend running it by encounter since we will be looking at overall totals for balancing. In my example, I chose to sort and group it by location. The names of the actual locations are hidden for privacy. You can sort it by whatever is useful to your practice. A popular option is to sort it by provider. You can also run it by payer, but do keep in mind that all dollar amounts will report under the primary payer for the encounter, not the responsible payer. Once again, your filter 1 date range should be set to last month. This report will give you a beginning AR, which is all data less than the from date in filter 1. For my example, the beginning AR is anything before May 1st. The from and to dates is what populates the columns for charges, adjustments, payments, and refunds, and then the ending AR is the sum of all the columns. Just like the practice summary, the column totals are independent from each other, which allows the total amounts from the two reports to balance with each other. You can see that in both reports, the charge amount is $234,255.62. Pay amounts are both $52,692.95. Adjustments and refunds from each report also balance out to each other. To further validate the report totals, the difference between your beginning AR and ending AR will match the practice summary total column. So after I subtract the beginning AR and the ending AR, the difference is $10,290.47, which does in fact match my total column from the practice summary. The next report you should be running is the charges report. It can be accessed from Reports, Daily, Charges. Filter 1, once again, will have the process date set to last month. This report can show detailed charge information within that time frame. Sorting can be whatever you find useful to your practice. You can use it to see provider productivity. If you want to know how much each provider is billing out, you can run it based off of user to see who is entering the most charges, or another option can be to sort it by CPT code to see what your common procedures were for that month. I chose to run it by CPT code. So this is just a portion of the codes billed, but you can see how many of each code was billed out, the total charge amount for each, and the overall total charge amount. On the right, I included the screenshot of the practice summary report, and you will see both our total charge amounts match. This is your indicator that the data that has been entered is reporting accurately. The next three reports are payments, adjustments, and refunds. The way you run the reports are similar, but they are separate reports and have to be run as such. To access them, you will go to Reports, Daily, by line item, and run each one. So by line item payments, by line item adjustments, and by line item refunds. Filter 1 will be set to last month. Sorting and group by will be set to whatever is useful to your practice. Here I show two different examples on how to sort these reports. The payments are ran by payer, and what is nice about that is it pulls data by actual payer and not the encounter primary. The adjustments and refunds show the data sorted by transaction codes. You can also run it by provider, transaction creator, or even batch description if you want to see ERA check numbers. Once again, if your data is accurate, it it will balance out to your practice summary. So as you see here in my example, payment amounts match, adjustments match, and also the refunds. The last report you should run is the aging analysis by encounter. To access this report, you'll go to Reports, Accounts Receivable, Aging Analysis, by encounter. This report will show us all encounter balances, those with credits included. The filter one setting is a little different since aging reports do not have date range options. You will set the process date to previous month end, and you will select all encounter statuses to be included. Including all encounter statuses is important because this report pulls by current encounter status, not the status as of your process date. In my example, the sorting is by rendering provider, but like the other reports, you can set it up to whatever is beneficial to your practice. What is also different about aging reports is you can use the age buckets as columns, so 0 to 30, 31 to 60, so on and so forth. For my example, I chose to use the balance control buckets. So in my report results, you are able to see where the balance lies for each provider to help identify where payments are being held up. If you choose to sort by payer, this report under primary payer and not responsible party. Once you run your report, the total balance amount should match up to your ending AR from the changes in AR report. So you'll see my two numbers match. Now you might be wondering, what if my report totals don't match the practice summary or changes in AR report? Fear not, NextGen has some reports that can not only identify any internal errors that prevent them from matching, but also correct them. These are known as system reports, and I'll be going over those that you should be running. There are 6 system reports that can be ran to correct any data integrity errors within NextGen. They are charge validation, transaction validation, history status, non-history status, miscellaneous, and DM audit log. Some of the system reports are data intensive, so it is best to have them run after production hours. I recommend creating a background business processor job to run the reports either weekly or bi-weekly. This will help ensure that errors will be corrected on a regular basis. I would also make sure that the reports run a couple days before month-end closing to provide time to correct any errors discovered. The system reports have a drill down option that allows some of the errors to self-correct. Any errors that do not self-correct require a support ticket to either to MTS or NextGen so the data can be cleaned up. I'm going to briefly go over each of these reports and what they do. First one is charge validation. You can access it at Reports, System, Charge Validation. This report will show any line items that are out of balance. If there are results on this report, it is recommended that you manually review the encounters listed and open balance control to correct them. Using the auto correction from the drill down option will move all balances to patient responsibility and may cause unnecessary statements. Second report to run is transaction validation. You can access it at Reports, System, Transaction Validation. Data on this report will appear if there are any problems with the posted transaction. Generally, these results will require a support ticket for correction. The third report is history status. This is accessed at Reports, System, Data Maintenance, History Status. This report checks all encounters and history status to make sure they do not have a balance. If any data appears on this report, you can double-click the report to correct the encounter status back to build. The fourth report to run is a non-history status report. This can be accessed from reports, system, data maintenance, non-history status. This report does the opposite of the history status report. It checks all encounters in non-history status to make sure they have balances. If any data appears on this report, you can double-click it to correct the errors. The fifth report is the miscellaneous report, sometimes referred to as the data integrity report. This can be accessed from reports, system, data maintenance, miscellaneous. This report verifies many sections of the database for any internal errors. If there is data on the report, you can double-click the report to automatically correct the errors. For those that do not auto-correct, you will need to open a support ticket for assistance. The sixth and final report is the DM audit log. This can be accessed from reports, system, data maintenance, DM audit log. This report is for informational purposes only and will show you all errors that were self-corrected. So now that we've made it to the end, we're going to recap what we learned today. First, I've mentioned this numerous times, all month-end reports should be ran by process date. Second, all month-end reports should balance to each other. Third, save yourself some time and utilize the background business processor to generate reports for you. Fourth, keep your database error-free by running your system reports regularly. And last, but most important, number 5, contact us if you need any help with any of these items. Thank you.
Okay, I do have a couple questions for you. If anybody has any further questions or would like us to review something, please send that over in the question box. But let's get to the first one. Why can't we use date of service or create date for month end?
So date of service and create date. First off, those aren't on all reports. So like your practice summary doesn't give you the option for a create date or a date of service. You only have the option for process date. But when using those dates, what could happen is sometimes, like if your encounter date is today, sometimes the charges don't get entered into until tomorrow. So it can skew your results, like the data that's reporting back. So you may miss payments or your numbers won't match at the end.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. Okay, and the second one, can we use service item summary to balance month end?
For service item summary, that report is a little tricky when trying to balance month end because you have the option to add charge dates in there as well as transaction dates. And the way the NextGen treats those dates is kind of like an and statement. So look for charges within that time period and also transactions within that time period. So you'll be missing payment information when you use that report.
Okay. Any other questions? I'll give you some info on the follow-up in just a moment. I don't think I have anything else. Let's see. How do you schedule a report?
Reports can be scheduled through the background business processor. You can set it up to run on like a consistent basis, or you can schedule it to run once, depending on your access to the system. So you may or may not see the background business processor as an application option. So if that's not something that you're familiar with or you don't see it on your application launcher, you can always open up a support ticket and we can assist you with setting those up.
Okay, thank you. Next question, what is a good way to use the DM audit log?
The DM audit log will just give you an overall look of what was corrected in your system. So any errors that the system reports fine, and you double click to just self-correct, the DM audit log will show you everything that was self-corrected. Because what happens is once you self-correct those on, say, for example, the charge validation report, when you click self-correct, and run the report again, you no longer see those results on your report. So the DM audit log is there to show you what was actually done.
All right, and another question, is there a fee attached to the auto report running?
No, there's no fee. It's an out of the box application, so they're available for everybody to use.
All good questions. Does anybody have any more? All right. Well, thank you again for your time today. You will be receiving a link. Usually it comes out again 24 to 48 hours after the presentation that has a link to the recording as well as the slides. So be looking for that. It will come across just like your webinar invite did. Any other questions or any follow-up that you need, if you know who your individual rep is, or account manager is, feel free to reach out to them. If you don't know who that is, feel free to send an email to info@medtechsolutions.com, and we'll make sure that we get the right answers for you from the right contact. And hopefully this was very helpful for you guys today. And thank you again for attending, and reach out to us if there's something else we can help you with. Everybody have a great afternoon and a great holiday coming up. Thank you.